Thank you all for coming to Stanley Joseph's Bris. We'd like to extend a special thank you to everyone who changed their plans to be here. We know this isn't the most convenient day. Joanna and I want to particularly thank our parents for everything they've done, not just for making today happen, which they very much did, but for all of their help, love, and support always. Thank you. I want to take this time to thank Joanna for being the wonderful wife that she is. Thank you, Joe. 5 years ago at our pivotal dinner at Haikara, I knew that you would be an absolutely amazing mother. Throughout these past 8 days, you've proven me very right, and I know the best is yet to come. Stanley's very lucky. Now I'd like to share a few thoughts about the name that we've chosen. Both of my grandfathers, Joseph Parker and Stanley Goldberg, passed away fairly recently, and I miss them tremendously. I'm so grateful that I was able to form a genuinely strong relationship with each of them while I had them, and I'm doubly grateful that they were able to meet and love Joanna. After they passed away, Joe recognized that their Hebrew names combined to make an interesting pair, Yosef and Sadok. When you combine these two names, the result is remarkably close in sound and meaning to the special title that the Torah uses to describe the character Joseph, Yosef and Tzaddik, Yosef the righteous. After Joanna's insight sunk in, I became really interested in the biblical character Joseph. I spent the past few months reading and thinking a lot about him, and his story is obviously incredibly rich. But there's one theme in his story that really stuck out to me, and I think it's particularly relevant today. That theme is pairs. His narrative is filled with pairs and twos. For starters, Joseph was one of a pair of sons born to Jacob's favorite wife, Rachel. Later we learned that he himself was blessed with a pair of sons. Professionally, he was appointed to the most powerful position in two homes, Potiphar's and Pharaoh's. Joseph's garment got him in trouble twice. First with his colorful coat that angered his brothers, and later with his shirt that Potiphar's wife ripped off. This pair of troublemaking garments got him thrown into a pair of what the Torah calls bores, or in English, a pit or a prison. In prison, he met a pair of detainees, a butler and a baker, who presented him with a pair of dreams to interpret. This pair of dreams paved the way for him to interpret another pair of dreams, two dreams that tormented Pharaoh. And his whole story was set into motion because of a pair of dreams that he described to his brothers. The pairs of dreams are of particular interest to me. I wondered why both dreams were needed. The second dream in each sense seems awfully similar to the first, almost to the point of being redundant. The stars bowing down to the sun, and then the wheat bowing down to Joseph's wheat, the skinny cows eating the fat cows, and the nebby corn consuming the healthy corn. Why couldn't God communicate his message in just one dream? The answer, I think, is that each dream within each pair reinforced the message. One dream might be written off as a run-of-the-mill, everyday kind of dream, but two dreams signaled something special was going on. They weren't a fluke. Their message should be given serious consideration. With that in mind, I want to turn my attention to my two grandfathers. Beyond their Hebrew names, the people, Joseph Parker and Stanley Goldberg, were an interesting pair. I used to see them as wildly different personalities, nearly polar opposites. Papa Joe, a laid-back, down-home southerner from Chattanooga, Tennessee, whose favorite meal was hot dogs and baked beans. He used to often half-joke, that he couldn't understand why I chose to go to Columbia over a school that had a real football team like Tennessee. My grandpa Stanley was a Brooklyn-born realist who was handy in the garden and graceful in the ballroom. He was adamant about education, and to dissuade me from pursuing a film career, he often used to cut out any article he could find that had the words filmmaker and bankrupt in it. But as different as I used to view them, I now see them as remarkably similar. Both grew up with modest means and worked very hard to become well-respected doctors. Not just any kind of doctors, both were doctors of children to some degree. Stanley, as an OB, brought children into the world, and Papa Joe, as a pediatrician, took care of them throughout their childhood. They were truly loved by their patients. When I go to Memphis, people always ask me if I'm related to Dr. Joe Parker and tell me how important he was to the development of their children and families. Back up here in North Country, passionate thank you letters still come in addressed to my grandpa Stanley years after his retirement and passing. Both were sensitive to the underprivileged. I hear stories from people telling you with tears in their eyes how my grandfather never charged them for medical treatment because they knew they couldn't afford it. I love that both Papa Joe and Grandpa served proudly in World War II. Joe in the Navy off the coast of Japan, and Stanley in the Army in Europe fighting the Nazis. Both fought for their country bravely. Stanley earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star for his heroism, and Joseph faked his age so that he could serve in the fight before he was even legally eligible. Both were very much manly men into athletics and sports. Stanley was a boxer, a fencer, and a ping pong champion in the Army. Joe's passion for the University of Tennessee athletic teams was legendary. As one radio show host in Memphis put it, any Tennessee coach that goes to Memphis, he goes to see Joe Parker. I am most proud of how charity played such a central role in their lives. I don't want to list all the causes and people that they've helped because I know it would have made them uncomfortable, but suffice it to say that they had a fervent passion for giving. When people ask our little Stanley Joseph who he's named for, he can be proud that he is named after two special people, two unique and different people who come together to reinforce one unified message, one strong code of values. Joanna and I hope that Stanley Joseph will inherit their passion for sports, sense of charity, generosity, work ethic, bravery, calmness, dignity, and love of family. We obviously can't control what he'll do in his life, but he would be lucky if he could draw guidance from the reinforced message of this pair. Beyond the pair of amazing men our Stanley is named after, Joanna and I hope he draws strength and inspiration for other pairs in his life as well. All 4 pairs of great-grandparents and 2 pairs of loving grandparents. He's so lucky to have a pair of strong and wonderful great-grandmothers, my Softy and Joe's grandma, and we feel so fortunate to have them both with us here today. As our Yosef Tzadok officially becomes part of the Jewish people today, our blessing for him is that he takes the best of our pair of legacies to become an active, contributing leader in his community.
This is one of those rabbinic moments. I had a totally different speech prepared, but after learning the baby's name and